Because I know if I'm impressed with them, you guys should be impressed with them too. And I originally met Aaron at an event about a year and a half ago, and then I got to know what he does, and I was very impressed. And then he invited me to his house. He lives up towards Sacramento. He's got a beautiful house. We went out to sushi, of course, because I eat sushi almost every day. And this guy is just like seriously unbelievable. He started a flipping business, and just the story how he got into it. He's flipped over probably close to 1,000 homes. He's got funding behind him, obviously, but he's major leagues, and he's always learning and growing, which I appreciate about him. So we got him coming up in a little bit. But the first thing we're going to do is we make each of you stand up, and you got 20 seconds. How long do you have?
20 seconds.
See, I'm not a public speaker, but I watch what they do, and they always make people in the audience repeat themselves, so it does work. Okay, good. So we'll start with Justin. Just introduce yourself. You got 20 seconds, who you are, what you do, and 20 seconds.
Justin Johnston. I live here in Walnut Creek, back and forth to here in Nashville. I'm a low voltage contractor, do security, AV, network, alarm system, all that stuff. That's it, 20 seconds.
Thank you.
Woo! Hello, my name's Cheryl. I'm a registered nurse here in Walnut Creek. I don't own any property, but I'm looking to build my net worth with my network.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marla McQueen. I live in Walnut Creek, and I own several properties in Florida, and I'm a lender and a rehab.
I'm Gabrielle Lee. I'm a realtor, and I've done a couple of flips myself. I live in Modesto, and I'm relocating to the Bay Area in a month, and I own a couple rentals in Ohio.
My name is James. I live in Concord, and come here to play with the big boys. Learn as much as I can.
Hey, my name is Arturo. I'm a security contractor. I have a triplex in Sacramento, and I'm here looking for wholesalers and lenders.
I'm David Zamarte. I'm a local realtor at Walnut Creek, serving Contra Costa, Alameda, and Solano County. I have a couple out-of-state properties as rentals for a number of years and looking to get some more.
Hey, I'm Bill. I'm an elevator contractor. Also, I do fix and flips on the side, and acquiring small duplexes as well, and looking for lenders.
Hi, I'm Tim Moore. I'm a realtor and an investor. I invest primarily in Texas because I don't see a lot of good deals in California. So wish you would prove me wrong. I have a little money burning a hole in my pocket, so I'm looking to make an investment, 50 to 100,000, willing to take a second position or creative financing.
My name is Kenneth Barley. I'm a 34-year realtor investor, primarily in house remodels, especially with we add square footage, burnouts, probates. I'm always looking for new wholesalers. And here's my son-in-law. He wants to get in the game.
I'm Rob Conley. I'm just getting into real estate, in the process of getting my license. So.
Hi, my name is Fred Davis. I live in Livermore, and I'm new to this operation. And I'm trying to network and learn how to do wholesale and rehab teams.
Alia Damas, married to this fellow, doing the same thing.
Hi, I'm Michael Morangiolo. I'm up in the Napa, Sonoma area, active in the buy-sell business. Also run the Bay Area Wealth Builders Association. And just want to say that it's hard to start the new year off without having a glass brimming full with all this rain we're having. I'll meet you guys tonight.
Mark Kamstra out of Danville. I'm a private lender for real estate projects.
Marion Casey from Lafayette. I have properties in California, Indiana, Maine, and soon to be Ohio that are rentals. And I'm looking to find properties that can be fixed up to either rent or flip.
My name is Jimmy. I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm just trying to learn everything, network, meet new people, and just get in the game.
I'm Stuart Morgan. I'm with I have a partner who's not here tonight, but we rehab houses. Been doing it for about 4 or 5 years, put up 25, 30 houses. I'm looking for good wholesalers, deals, and some good lenders if they're out there. Work with the agents who might have off-market deals, and we also are evaluating a ground-up development in Martinez area for 12 homes. So I'm looking for possible equity partners and possible funding.
Hi everyone, I am a broker, but right now I'm a broker associate at Coldwell Banker. I can help you buy and sell any property, but one day I want to break off on my own, and I heard you guys are the movers and shakers, and I'm here to check you out.
Today is the day, not one day. We don't want to hear that.
My name's Adam. I'm a local agent here in Walnut Creek, and I'm here to provide you guys with some off-market opportunities. So I have Martinez available right now today, and then Lafayette as soon as tomorrow or the end of the month.
My name is Ryan. I'm new to the whole business of real estate, so I'm just trying to learn from everybody that's here.
Hi, I'm Mike. I run the other Walnut Creek Meetup. It meets the second Thursday of the month, and my partner and I, we deal mainly with out-of-state investors in properties.
Hello, I'm Dylan Peters. I am a rare wine consultant and investor, and I'm just here to meet everyone and maybe spend some money at some point.
Tom Remigio Parker. I'm new in the business. I'm just trying to network and know everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Guy. I live in Danville. I have a cooking channel on YouTube, and I'm here with my husband Brad, and we're just trying to learn what we can.
What kind of food do you specialize?
Well, some Mexican food and other healthy stuff.
You got to give us a channel. Later, we'll get right down.
I'm Brad Guy. I'm a CPA. I work here in Walnut Creek. We have a out-of-state investment in multifamily as a partnership.
Good. We need some CPA hacks so we pay less taxes. All right. Where we? Oh.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wilson. I work for a startup. I live in Danville, and I'm looking for a career change. Kind of getting on burnout working for startups in the tech industry, so we'll want to get into rehab, maybe staging. My fiance is retired utility, so we both are electrically certified. So just looking to network.
Hi, I'm Scott. This is my fiance Michelle. I'm retired, so whatever goes.
Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Tom. I'm the guy behind the camera.
I call him MacGyver.
Oh, MacGyver.
Okay, we'll go back here. Would you stand up and just introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Kiana. I'm already a real estate investor. Small, one property, so I'm looking to get more.
Great.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric Lawson. I'm a mortgage broker. I'm here to learn, share, and network, and get closer to executing my exit strategy for early retirement, which is picking up multi-unit investment properties. As quick as possible with the hammer over here.
That's right.
That's Beau, if you guys don't know.
He calls me the Hebrew hammer. Long story. That's right.
This way or that way?
Josh, you
All
can-
right, Josh.
Don't be scared.
I'm Josh Wellen. I've been investing for 18 years now here in Contra Costa County, and I own and operate up over 160 units now, and I'm officially addicted and I was looking for another deal.
He's quiet, but he's deadly.
Hi, Doug Chase, a mortgage broker as well. Live in Walnut Creek, small time investor, live in New Figure.
Gina Landers.
Hi, I'm Gina Landers, a real estate broker. Been in real estate for about 14 years, been an investor for about 6. Known Beau for about 9. I'm here to network and get my money working for me.
I'm Bill Davis, and I help Bill with his marketing.
Hi guys, Marty Massingo, real estate appraiser, been in the business for about 15 years, also a real estate investor in this guy, this guy, yeah, just here to network and always just learn something more and come in.
Did I miss author in there?
Oh yeah, author, best-selling.
He's got many talents. Okay, we're at this table.
I'm Ramon Lopez with Keller Williams. I'm a real estate agent and a new apprentice of real estate.
name is Alex Lopez. I'm also with Keller Williams, Walnut Creek Realtor, and just looking to help investors find new opportunities and also kind of network and learn a little bit about that flipping side.
Kathy Lee.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lee Chavelli. I own a home staging business, CO Designs, and I'm here to learn.
Aaron, well, we're going to introduce you. So.
I just drove down from Saks to come hang out with Beau.
We'll introduce him with a little bit more than 20 seconds.
Hi, Johnny here, wholesaler, flip houses, looking for buying homes and learning some more.
All right, let's see. Want to introduce yourself?
My name is Jake Chase. I'm a home investor franchise. We're known as the We Buy Ugly Houses, and we've been doing this for a long time. And there are deals here in California. So we have about 9 on our board right now. We also own the group called the Deal Maker Sessions that we meet over here on the 4th Tuesday of every month. And Back 40, that we present only wholesale deals, non-MLS off-market deals for you guys.
Hi, I'm Julie Priest-Kyle. I'm a real estate realtor, real estate agent in San Jose and Silicon Valley. And I'm also an aspiring real estate investor, working on my own projects and working with other investors to identify good projects. In the San Jose area, it's like a needle in a haystack, but sometimes they pop up.
Okay, and I forgot that guy drinking his vodka over there.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Music. I'm a fix and flip investor here in the Bay Area, pretty much anywhere in the Bay. And I actually host a meetup myself in Solano County. If anybody's interested in learning about stuff out that way.
And that's good. Okay, great.
We have a wrap.
I think that's everybody. Cynthia's back there, but she's working, so.
There you go, she's ready.
We got Wendy.
Wendy, go ahead. Introduce yourself. We got 20 seconds to tell us who you are, what you do.
Wendy Duran. I'm a newbie, just starting to get into investing, just trying to learn. I have a day job too.
Well, good. We're glad you're here. And Cynthia, go ahead, you're up.
I'm Cynthia Sandoval, and I'm an investor, and I'm looking for deals just like everyone else. And I help Beau with the Thrive REIA to start taking that over. And so yeah, happy to be here.
Very good. All right. Okay, well, so next I'm going to have my good friend and mortgage broker, Eric Lawson. He's going to, I don't know if you guys were here maybe 2 meetups ago, but anyways, he did a short presentation on mortgage hacks and credit tips, and it was really good. A couple of you guys asked for him back, so I'm giving him 10 minutes, and I'm not charging him any money, just sushi. So you're up.
Put the mic up. Grab the mic so people can hear.
Oh, why didn't you tell me we had a mic?
Well, I just put it up. I gotta think of everything.
Testing. Okay, Eric.
Thanks, hammer time. If you ever see him dance, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think there's a YouTube video. What's up, everybody? Again, my name is Eric Lawson. I've been a mortgage broker here in Walnut Creek for the past 12 years. Closed, give or take, about 1,000 transactions at this point, and look forward to doing more. Pretty much, I'm here to learn shortcuts for investing, so I hope to learn that from you guys. But what I want to do is give back a little bit, and over my time, a lot of stuff that you guys may or may not know, there's a couple quick little credit tips that I can give you guys that who knows if you're trying to close a deal and something pops up on your credit and all of a sudden your credit score drops, you got a week to close, little thing can be a big deal. So here's 5 basic things that I find that come across my clients, find really helpful, that are surprisingly easy. Some of these you may know, some of these you may not know. First and foremost, the first basic thing to know is your credit scores are most dependent on your revolving debts, your credit cards. So basically, the higher your credit card debt, the more it looks like you're not financially stable, the lower your scores. So to optimize your credit scores, try to keep all your balances at 30% of the limit or below. So a $10,000 credit card, keep it at $3,000 or below. That'll have your credit scores maximized anytime you go to finance anything. You guys probably already know that, but just in case you don't, quick little easy one. This one's brand new. A lot of people don't even know about this, but in June, the whole credit reporting system changed. It's called trended credit data. So for example, before, if you made just a minimum payment every month, but let's say you had a relatively low credit balance, you should have good credit scores. But now they do trended, so it'll look over your payments over the last 6 months to a year to see, are you making just the minimum payment? Are you making more than the minimum payment? Or are you paying it off in full? So that now, potentially some people that could be less financially responsible that had good credit scores, their scores are gonna go down. And then people that are paying it off every month, their scores are gonna go up. So something to be aware of if you have stuff coming up that your credit's gonna affect it. Don't make the minimum payment. If anything, make $100 more, whatever it is, so that way you're getting the maximize on those credit scores. A lot of people don't know that, just came out in June, but that's a nice little thing you know. If you actually see a copy of your credit report when you get a mortgage, you'll notice now that your credit report now is like 3 times as long because each account shows your history of what payments you're making every month over the last like 12 to 24 months. So they're more of a pain in the ass to read, but there you go. Let's see. The next little tip I got for you guys. Also, you guys know, don't close any of your accounts. One of the biggest factors on your credit score isn't how much credit you have available, but it's how long your accounts have been open. You could have a credit card with only a $50 limit, but if it's been open for 20 years, the fact that you have a history of paying something on time that long, that's a huge value. So you might go and close that account thinking, oh, it's only a $100 credit card. That would actually hurt your credit scores. I've had people call me to get a mortgage, and I check their credit, and they have like 660 credit score. They're like, what the hell? I had 740 last month, and I'm like, well, what'd you do? Well, I just paid off all my credit cards. Would you close them? Yeah, I closed like half of them. Well, they literally just deleted history for who knows how long they've had this cards for. So a common mistake that I see. Another one is, now this tip, I read may not apply, but I haven't seen anything to show that it doesn't, but it's called an authorized borrower. So I use this one a lot for first-time home buyers. So let's say I have a low credit score. What I could do is I could, for example, add one of Beau's credit cards to my account. So I could call my credit card and say, hey, I want to add Beau to my credit card as an authorized borrower. My credit card now will show up on Beau's credit as if he's had it for 20 years. And it has my payment history and all my history on it, but he's never touched it. But now that'll factor into his scores. So I've personally taken like some of my buddies' credit scores from like 600 to like 740 in 2 weeks. And it's free, it costs nothing because I'm just adding them to my account. And then whenever they're done with their transaction, I just take them off, so it costs nothing. And then the security part of it, some concerns I hear, well, hey, if I add this guy to my credit card, can he hurt my credit in any way? And the answer is they can't. Because number one, he will only get a credit card if I tell the creditor to send him a card, which I won't. And number two, on a credit report, it does show credit card numbers, but it only shows the first 12 of 16 numbers. So even if he saw my credit card in his credit report, he still couldn't run the account because he only has 12 of the 16 numbers. So basically, it's a safe, free, easy way to bump up anybody's credit scores that you want to help, or if you need help, your scores are low and you need an instant bump in credit, and there's no more credit cards to pay down, and there's nothing else you can do to your credit. See if anybody you know and trust will add you to one of their credit cards they've had it open for a long time. Boom, 50, 100-point credit score increase. Maybe that saves your deal that you had on the table. Last and least, this is, I think people find the favorite. Use this with good ethics, by the way. So, a check is a federal document. If someone cashes a check and there's terms on it, then technically they've agreed to the terms. So, for example, I learned this by just talking to credit people over the last 12 years. But essentially, one time I had a medical collection that I legitimately paid it off. 3 years later, it pops up. I had to keep records to prove that I paid it or not. So I talked to one of my guys, and he goes, well, hey, just send them the minimum payment, and on the check, right, if cash paid in full. He goes, if they cash that check, then technically they agree that the account is paid in full. So I sent in a check, and they didn't cash it. And I go, oh, well, that must have some weight then, right? Why'd they get their attention? So I kept sending it, and then the second time they did cash it. When they sent me a third bill, I basically I have a template, but I sent them back this, you're in violation of XYZ, blah, 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 no more bills. Get a call from him like 2 weeks later, some guy sounds really upset, kind of pissed off, and he's like trying to coach me to admit that I knew that I was doing something to basically fault them and to admit it. And I said, sir, you cashed the check, that's a done deal, I gotta go. collection gone. Anyways, so like I said, use this with ethics. You know, pay your bills, don't do stuff up and use this. But if you ever come across something like that, just try it, see what happens. It can't hurt. It's free, and I've had good experience with it. So that's a good one because I know we all have some sort of collection or some medical, you know, thing that popped up that we know we paid, and it just really pisses you off. So that one just feels good when you get it done. So you're welcome with that one. Thanks, guys. My name's Eric. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
What if you pay off the balance for some of the credit cards and don't use them? Would that affect your...
Good question. So that's good. So basically, what's most relevant on your credit is open and active. So if you have a credit card and you haven't used it for, I'm not exactly sure if it's 2 or 3 months or 3 to 4 months, but eventually like it'll fall off as an active account. Not completely, the score still factors in, but it's actually more beneficial on your credit if you leave it active. Like for example, if I have someone pay a credit card completely off, the scores will actually go up more if they pay it down to just like $100 because it's considered like it's going to stay more active. So I don't know why, but I've done that many times where I give them the estimation, we do it, and their scores are higher than if they paid the card off. So if that's your goal, right? So keep like $50, $100 on there, and just 15, 20 bucks a month, whatever it is, the minimum payment. And that's assuming if you only have a few accounts. If you have like some ridiculous like 10 credit cards, 5 credit cards, nobody needs that many. So don't worry about keeping that many active. But I would say at least have 2 to 3 credit cards like in an active status at all times if you want to maximize your credit scores. Yeah. All right, I think that's my 10 minutes.
Okay.
Come see me after if any more questions, you guys.
Now for the main course, I'm going to bring up Aaron. And yeah, I think I met Aaron about 1.5 years ago. And I mean, he's just a phenomenal individual. He created software for buying properties off the courthouse steps. Just his whole story is phenomenal. He's done like 900 purchases off the steps. And now he's investing mostly outside of California, but he's still doing some new builds. And he's just a wealth of information, so I figured as our first guest for Thrive, we might as well have a really phenomenal guy that I know I will continue to learn from, and I'm just honored that he came out, and I know you guys will enjoy what he has to say because he has a lot of cool concepts. Is this mic working?
Yes.
Yeah. He has a lot of good concept. Anybody familiar with Tim Ferriss here? Okay. Wait till you listen to, I know Eric's a huge Tim Ferriss fan. His work day is pretty amazing. I mean, he gets up really early, but it's pretty phenomenal. So anyways, Aaron, if you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go into like a Q&A, and then maybe a little spiel about how you operate your business. Cool.
Awesome. Maybe we'll scoot our chairs since we're sharing a mic. We can get cozy on here. So my name's Aaron Amuchastegui. Beau, thanks for inviting me to come down. I figured with how bad the rain was, there was no chance there was going to be a big turnout here, and we're probably lucky it rained, or the room would have been too small for the turnout. So thanks everybody for coming out to try to learn some stuff and talk about real estate when when the weather's like this. So I drove down I live up in Loomis, which is northeast of Sacramento. So drove down today to come hang out. Yeah, I mean, as far as introduction, back in 2005, 2006, I was a home builder. I worked in Southern California doing new homes before the housing market crashed. Worked for a great company, a bunch of really smart guys. And when the market crashed, we kind of had to start trying to reinvent ourselves. And yeah, we came up with some new systems and some new ways to do it. And around 2009, a lot of my business started to focus and transition to, distressed housing. I mean, back in 2009, that was the only thing that was around. But we were trying to buy houses at REOs that were listed on the MLS, and there was always multiple offers, and you had to know the people, and there was just no way to get in. But something where there wasn't a lot of competition at the time was the courthouse step auctions. Because back in 2009, there was no rule book on how to do it. There were no lessons. There were no websites. There was no anything. And so we'd find the listings, and we went down to the courthouse, and we read all the foreclosure law, and we were reading deeds of trust and trying to understand how it was all going to work. The first house we bought was super terrifying. You sign over a couple $100,000 to a guy that showed up with a skateboard and put his laptop on a trash can, and he hands you this piece of paper that doesn't have an address on it, and you go, do I get the house? He goes, you didn't buy a house, you just bought a loan. And so you're walking away going, oh my gosh, that was all we had. We had it all on the line. But long story short, it worked out really well. You know, we were teaching ourselves how to do it, and now we're somewhere between 900 and 1,000 houses that we bought at Courthouse Steps and we flipped. And over the last year and a half, we've started changing our, we had a really bad business in 2013, 2014. There was a lot of competition in this space. I don't like competing with people. So I like to go into markets where other people aren't doing it. So I like the courthouse because it was all about the systems. I didn't have to be smart. I just had to, just to follow the process. And so I can't really do that much in California anymore because everybody's in California doing it. So I tend to travel to other places where we can do it. And our big goal this year is to get to 1,000 single-family rentals that we hold. We have a couple hundred doors right now in apartment complexes and stuff like that. But our big crazy goal is that if we flipped 1,000 houses before, and then we had a couple bad years and very little to show for it afterward, but let's go try that again. And this time we're going to try to keep it.
So I guess the first question: what states are you buying in, and what are you looking for? Are you just looking for the opportunity, or are there certain demographics? What's your buying criteria?
Yeah, so right now, again, so my business plan is try to go somewhere where we don't have a lot of competition, and so where it's a little bit easier, and we're willing to try to put in more work. So Texas is a great market for us right now. We can buy houses that are fairly new, and for rentals they do really well. It's not necessarily a great flip market, but it's a great rental market. We're also just getting started out in Jackson, Mississippi. We have some holdings in Florida, but we're not doing any new acquisitions there right now. We have some in Ohio, Arizona. We're probably interested in buying more in Arizona, more in Texas, more in Mississippi as our focus areas. And what we look for is kind of, there's a big difference in cash flow. So we'll take, if we can get a house that was built in 2010, 2012, what we try to have as a target is an 8% net rental return. So that's after assuming all sorts of stuff, and if we can do that, that house is going to be fairly low maintenance, and we'll do it. When we go to older houses, we're looking for much higher net rental returns because it doesn't take much to change that return dramatically. So if we're going to go to houses that are built in the 70s or 80s, we're wanting to see a 14 to 16% net rent return. And for our apartment complexes, they're a whole different story. They're really beat up. They're C grade if C is being generous. The net return, the gross rent return is really, really high. About 50% every month we spend on expenses. So our net returns still turn out great because we bought them right, but there's just a totally different product. So the nicer, newer it is, we'll go for a much lower rent return. The more hair it has on it, we need to go in buying it at a really high return.
So are you funding, so you have a couple companies, but this big company, is this it's a LLC with, is it institutional money, or is it just some private investors' money that pulled their money together? How are you structured that way?
Sure. So when we started flipping, back in 2009, we'd done a couple houses, and my dad called a buddy and told him what was going on, and then I got a call from a guy that said, "Hey, I heard what you were doing down in Sacramento." That turned into a $10 to $15 million private equity fund pretty quick from guys that had were sitting around the table. They grilled me for a couple hours and they started investing, and so that money is private investors that got pooled. And we had some investors that invested a couple $1 million and some that invested $50,000 and had pooled the money. So that was where that was what we've done up until the last couple of years. And now in the last year or so, we've transitioned more to lines of credit. There's lots of lines of credit out there available right now for volume. And so most of the time what we're doing right now is we're buying them lines of credit. We're fixing them up, we're stabilizing them, getting them rented. At that point, we're refinancing them into long-term credit lines. And then there are different investors that we still have to use at different times. We have investors that partner with us on our acquisition company, that they get a little bit higher return because they're the risk on our when we're borrowing lines of credit. And then some of our investors are in on that long-term holding fund. But a lot more. It used to be, our first 4 or 5 years was 100% non-levered investor-only money of investors that we found that bought into our pool, and now we're doing a lot more lines of credit from Colony Capital and Anchor and some of those groups that are out there.
Very cool. I'm friends, obviously, with Aaron on Facebook, and he did a Facebook Live, and I found this to be really interesting, and this kind of like was very intriguing to me. He was filming. He was in Jackson, Mississippi, and he was filming his walkthrough of a property they just bought. They just bought a 144 unit apartment complex, and it was abandoned for 10 or 12 years. So I think what's critical to note is that Aaron, he looks for advantages where, you know, maybe not all investors are going after. Maybe it's a bigger deal. Maybe it's just a property that needs major construction, which isn't for everybody, especially if you're getting started. But why don't you tell us about the 144 unit building, your plans for it, how you found it, and how you're working with cities on or revitalizing cities, and how that works by getting in with the cities and how they've been able to help you. Cool.
Yeah, so we kind of have like two different businesses. So we said when I retired, I wanted to be able to still do some deals that were fun. And so what we find is our business where we buy in bulk and we do our rentals and our refis, getting up to 1,000 houses. That's our day job that pays the bills. And then our fun projects are the really, really hairy ones, the crazy apartment complexes that I got in Texas. I bought a city block of houses in a small town in Texas that had been abandoned, so every house on the block. And the project that Beau's talking about was a 144 unit apartment complex in Jackson, Mississippi. And it had a ton of hair on it. So again, we like to negotiate deals where we're the only people in the deal. And it was one where it was a buddy of mine sent it to me and said, "Hey, look at this lead. Maybe we should buy this." And it said it looked like it was going to be an opening bid of about $1 million. It had appraised for $4.5 million years prior when it was operating. And so first I looked at it online, watched this live auction go, and I was thinking maybe for $1 million it's a deal. And nobody bid on the opening bid. And they dropped it to $500,000 and nobody bid on the opening bid, and they closed the auction. So then I called the auctioneer right afterward. And I said, "Hey, I was trying to bid on that and I had an error on my computer. I think I might be interested in it." And they said, "Okay, let's." So she said, "Well, what would you be able to offer?" And I said, "Well, I think $500,000 is an offer. I think we can do that." Again, I just had a great experience on an apartment complex in Texas, so I thought I was in a good position to negotiate that. And she said, "Well, can you be out here tomorrow?" So I went in and told my wife, "Hey, there's a chance we can get this. I need to fly to Jackson, Mississippi." So we had dinner and booked a flight. And the next morning, it was going to Jackson, Mississippi, and she's hanging out with the kids. And a lot of my best deals happened like that, where in the drop of a bucket, I had to be willing to go fly somewhere crazy and go make a deal. And so then I went out to the property, viewed it, walked 100 of the units or so, and I called people back and said, "Sorry, there's no way I'm going to buy this property. It's got way too much work on it." And the whole time they were kind of negotiating with me, like, "Well, we have this other cash buyer that's willing to bid." And so I go, "You know what? It's totally worth what you're asking, but I can't pay it. So just go back to that cash buyer. Just go back to them." And they just kept calling me back, and they kept calling me back. And then so I told Noah a few times I was driving through Texas with my family on a break, and I got a call from a San Antonio number, and he was thinking, "Oh, that's where we're going. It must be something with our trip." And the guy that answered goes, "Hey, I'm the guy that owns that property in Mississippi. Let's make a deal." Right? And he's like, "I just need somebody to buy it." He just put all his cards on the table. I need somebody to buy it. You're the only person that showed any interest at all. I think we bought it for $250,000. Yeah. So now we still don't know if it's a great deal yet, right? Because it was way under replacement value. The land was worth that. But it's in a really sketchy area. It's been completely abandoned, and there's a $3 to $4 million construction budget on it. So during due diligence, what we found, so when I was getting ready to cancel the deal, my wife told me, "Why don't you call up there and see if they have a similar program in Mississippi that they have out in Texas?" And some of those programs are programs through cities where they can help you with funding and financing if you were going to convert your projects into low-income housing. Well, all of our crappy properties are low-income housing already, right? So not our single-family houses; those are nice, but all of our apartment complexes that are our C grade, everybody that's renting from those are already low-income qualified. We were just never getting the credit for it. So I called, and out in Mississippi they have this program called the Mississippi Home Corporation, and they will give you housing tax credits. So it's federal income tax credits based on, so if we're, long story short, if we're going to put $4 million in to fix this up, if we're going to convert it into low-income housing, they'll give us a $1.2 million federal tax credit. It's supposed to be over 15 years, but then the attorney said, but we have somebody that will buy it right now for 1.1 million or 1 million. So then that becomes your equity on the deal. So now we're in the process of getting this loan and this application. If it gets approved, not everybody gets approved because they have some other factors. But the best deal ever is, we were willing to come in originally with just a line of credit, fix it. But if it really works out, what'll happen is we'll get a 4% bond loan. So it's the state-backed construction loan. That'll be for the $3 million. The tax credit becomes the $1 million in equity. We go through our $4 million in construction. Once we refinance it, we pay off the construction loan. The equity that came in essentially is ours, and so it'll. Yeah, that ends up taking up some of the return along the way. And again, it's one of those C grades, so when we look at our cash flow, we're looking at half of it's going to be spent on expenses. But at the end of the day, you take on something really, really crazy like that. It's been a really difficult construction project. There's a lot of hair on it, and we're going out there and looking at it a lot. But if it works out like that, that's a pretty screaming deal. If you end up owning a giant complex, 2 pools, tennis courts, like 20 buildings, rec centers, sales offices, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, we're risking some of our money right now, but when all turns out good, if it works out like it's supposed to at refi time, we won't have any equity invested.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's probably a little bit bigger than a lot of people want to do in here to get started, but what advice would you give for a newer investor, and being that maybe the market in California has gone up a lot, and maybe they're wondering where they should put their money, whether out of state or, I mean, any advice on, like, a newer investor looking to get started? Maybe flipping's not the option, but I mean, what would you recommend? Where to look? How to get started? In a nutshell.
Yeah. So you can either be a flipper, where you're going to make money every time you do a house, or you'll do a buy and hold, where you figure out ways that you make income every month. When we were the most successful in California, our asset management company would buy the houses. We were also a licensed general contractor, and then my wife became my real estate broker. So I ran a construction company, and she was our brokerage, and so we brought everything in there. So if you're a new investor starting, like people say they're working on getting their real estate licenses right now, if you've got enough to buy 1 house or 2 houses, as many of those extra things as you can do instead of paying somebody else the markup is going to be the easiest way to get your foot in the door and learn some stuff. It's also the hardest as you start going through. So if you've got enough money to do 1 house, I would encourage you to get a house that has a lot of hair on it, but then plan on putting in a lot of sweat equity and do it yourself. Looking at it and going, hey, I can have some trades do this, but I can do this maybe. And if you don't have any construction experience, you can work on picking up the materials and bringing it to them, or doing what you can do to be involved to put in that sweat equity. So on your first couple deals, it's really crucial that you're successful. And one of the ways you can be successful on those first ones is if there's anything that you were going to pay someone else to do that you can do, to work on that. If it's out of state, or if it's a long-term rental, a lot of it depends on how much money you have to put in, what your sources are, if you've got low, good lines of credit, expensive lines of credit, things like that. But there's a lot of opportunities in other states right now for rentals where you're between $30,000 to $50,000 for a purchase. You can rent. You can rent it for $1,000 a month. Where you get these really good returns, and they're actually really, really decent houses when you go see them. And you can do it 2 different ways. You can hire property managers. Then it's it's a little bit less management, but then it's something that you're giving away. So we try to self-manage wherever we can, so we can be more in control of it. Even if a local property manager is going to do better than us, so then we at least know where the money is. Like if I'm self-managing something and I screw it up, I at least know that. If I hire a property manager and they say, hey, something went wrong and there was this $4,000 mistake or something that happened, it's tougher when you're branching out with other people.
So if you go into a new area and you're buying, let's say you're buying single-family homes, like, because I think a lot of people don't invest out of state because starting to get the boots on the ground and that kind of thing. Can you give us, like, how do you go about, what's your thought process? Like, I don't know anybody in Jackson, Mississippi right now, but I want to buy there. What I'm looking for, do you get like one employee and then you kind of teach him the way and he runs it for you, or how would, like if I wanted to go to Jackson right now, I have a little bit of experience buying in other places, but what would be my process?
Yeah, so usually when we start, we have some new things we've been trying lately. So usually when we find a new area, we go make sure that we're the boots on the ground for a while. So we'll drive out there and I'll drive the neighborhoods and I'll go to auction and I'll bid on the houses, and after we buy them I'll go out and see it. So that way I know the areas. After a few months I'm usually able to then hire somebody else to do those parts, because now I kind of know the markets and know the areas, but we try to go first. But there's some things we've tried more lately is there's a lot of property preservation companies out there that they started their businesses just to work for the banks. And a property preservation company, they're guys that their whole job is they're going to rekey houses, they're going to do inspections, they're going to board up windows, and they're going to tell you what's going on. So when all these foreclosures first happened, the banks were like, we just foreclosed thousands of houses and we don't even know what to do. These property preservation companies started springing up. And all they were doing, again, was rekeying houses, securing it, checking to see if the house was still there, checking to see if anybody lived there, that sort of thing. So they used to be really busy. Well, now a lot of these trade shows we're going to, those property preservation companies don't have enough work from the banks anymore because REOs have gone down. So they're trying to work for people like us now, and people like you guys. So where now there's a few property preservation companies that work nationally that we can call them and say, hey, I just made an offer on this house in Mississippi and it got accepted, so I've got a 5-day due diligence period. I'm paying the property preservation company $85. They're going to go to the house, they're going to do a full inspection, they're going to do the access, and they're going to help us get an idea of what's going on. There's also like 6 or 7 new general contractor companies that they're nationwide for stuff like that. So in our areas where we're not established, we're okay now with hiring those other people to give us the info. And then once you get 10 or 20 houses in an area, then that's when we start getting employees and people like that. Now if you find the right person, like you have a friend that lives in a city and you're like, hey, can you go swing by this house and see if it's there and peek in the window, that sort of thing. I mean, that literally is how a lot of it starts, because a lot of the best deals come out of, hey, there's this house going to auction in an hour and nobody's bid on it online and the opening bid's $25,000 and I think it's worth a couple $100,000. How can I get somebody there, right? And you start calling real estate agents and just going, hey, if you go see this house, I'll pay you $50 to do it right now. And that used to be, always having to dial and find somebody. If you know you're going to be in an area, posting Craigslist ads, things like that to get in. But now there's a lot of people out there that are trying to focus more on people like us, out of state.
So are you mostly are you buying now? Are you doing any direct marketing, or is it pretty much all off the steps and that kind of stuff, or wholesalers?
So we're trying to just start with direct marketing. So what we're finding is a lot of the times in California, when we were buying houses that were in foreclosure, there was $400,000 owed on them, and they would sell for $200,000 on the steps. There wasn't anything the person in the house could do. But in a lot of these other states, people are going into default and they actually have equity in the houses. So we could have bought it from them ahead of time if they would have answered the door when we knocked on the door. So we're just trying to do a lot more of that, of knocking on the door instead of the week before auction, a month before auction, saying, hey, do you want to sell us your house now? Because if we buy it now, that way. So we haven't had any success with direct marketing mailers, door knocking yet, but that's something that's one of our goals this year to really try to get more of. So far, 99% of what we get is on the courthouse steps or through MLS REOs when they first come out, stuff that's really beat up in areas where there aren't any, when it's all FHA buyers.
So with your new business model, you guys want to buy 1,000 homes this year, 1,000 rentals, I should say. Are you flipping any too with this fund, or is it just all buy and hold?
We flip some. It just depends on the house, depends on the price, and there's some areas where we buy where we're already there at the auction, and there's just some houses that we buy that aren't good rentals. It's just like in Sacramento, you're not going to buy a house that's a great rental return. You're going to get something that's like 4 to 6%, and maybe it's the same. I'm sure it's the same right around here. So there's some of those spots, even when we're in those other cities, when you go into the really nice areas where housing values are at the same auction location are still there. So those are usually the ones that when we buy them, if we get them for a deal, we will flip them.
Okay, great. Let's see. I had a lot of questions. I wrote them down. Hold on a second.
Get the phone down.
I can. This is old school.
Ah, there you
Eric's
go.
got to teach me the ways.
There you go.
He's very tech savvy, that guy.
Never say a landlord.
It's a big list.
Yeah. Oh, can you? This is always a good one. Can you tell us about a deal, a learning experience you had on a deal that went bad?
So we had lots of deals go bad. Right. Our first 100 houses or so, we probably didn't take a lot, but then as we really started ramping up, we started to have some things go really wrong. So I had, there's leverage is good and bad, and so when we first started using leverage, we always had a mindset that when we would go to list houses, if we didn't get an offer within 3 weeks, we would drop the price 10 grand. If we didn't get an offer within 2 weeks, we'd drop the price 10 grand. We didn't want to hold anything long term. And when it was all equity, that method worked for us because we'd make money on 9 out of 10 and it was fine. And when we first started using leverage, we didn't really change our model and our thinking process. So we'd say, okay, let's drop 10 grand, let's drop 20 grand. Oh, losing 30 grand on this house, no big deal because we've got the pool of houses. But before leverage, it's a $300,000 investment, losing 10%. But then, when we started using leverage, the money invested was actually $60,000. 200,000 was borrowed. So then, when you're losing 30,000, you're losing half your equity. So, so leverage is always a really tricky thing. If you don't have to use it in flips, our big lesson was just that you don't. And there's always lots of houses that tax records aren't always updated properly. So we've had a lot of houses that we bought that square footages were off by by 1,000, by 2,000. That used to be when it was really competitive. The steps how we would get our good deals. If the tax records were off in our favor, we'd know to bid more for properties. But there's been a couple $100,000 swings that way. And then the worst thing that happened to us was as we started expanding to other states and we were less involved on the ground. We had a bunch of houses in Florida that we had a contractor working on 6 or 7 of them. And our software tracking was great. They'd have to upload pictures of the houses and the repairs that were done before they would invoice us. They would send them over to us. We would review it. And we'd pay that way. We didn't pay we didn't ever do deposits. Our progress payments were always when projects were complete. We were pretty safe and protected. And we had a Thanksgiving roll around end of 2013. And our contractor in Florida, he's like, I just finished the last of the 7 houses. Here's my billing. It's like $250,000. He's sending us these pictures. And the 25th was landing on our Black Friday weekend and really needed, and so it was a rush. So it was this perfect storm where the people in the office were like, no, we're just trying to get checks out to everybody because everybody really needs them for Friday. And I think some steps got skipped along the way. And so we did our final payment and I flew out to Florida the next week and half of our houses hadn't been touched. And so it was fraud, right? You're taking pictures of houses that weren't ours on the inside. And so when you're going through, at the time we had hundreds of houses under construction. And we vetted the people, and the people are there, and we also had people that were profit shares on the ground that were supposed to be doing it. And the reality is the people that we had working with us that were our profit shares, our incentives weren't aligned well enough, so they weren't tracking on the properties like they were supposed to. There was also that crazy rush. So then I went and I hired an attorney, and I called the police and said, these guys should go to jail. I want their bond, I want this. And they said, in Florida, contractors don't have bonds. So in California, if you did something like that, you'd go to jail for a long, long time. And in Florida, what they told me was there isn't really much you can do. So so we went to court. We spent $50,000 or $60,000 to sue them in court. We won a $375,000 judgment against them. And along the way, we find all these other people that they've been ripping off as part of the deal. Still no jail time, no anything. We win a $375,000 judgment. We feel vindicated. They agree to a payment plan. The first payment's 5 months out. We're going, all right, fine. They've finally done this. They get to it, and the first payment doesn't come in, and then they file bankruptcy. So that was a $375,000 loss. And our stupid part of that was so now when I go out of state, it had been 4 to 5 months from the time we had seen that stuff ourselves, and we had a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And so that was probably our biggest, most costly mistake. And that pretty much sunk our company for the next year. So we pretty much went out of business the next year, and it was all based on that. So we went from tons of employees to none, great investor returns to none, and it almost shut us down for good.
So I think what we're going to do now, Michael wanted to make an announcement. I'm going to let Aaron get a drink of water, and then we're going to come back after that, and Aaron's going to do about 10 minutes on his 4-hour work week and how he structures his business, which is, it all comes down to like structures. I always talk to Eric because we sit close to each other at the office, and we're always, working on systems and like what can make us more, efficient, because a lot of, what we found out is, what is it? Out of Fortune 500 CEOs, Darren Hardy did this study, and it was,
28 minutes.
Out of a 10-hour day, they were only doing their money-making activities for 28 minutes, and that's a Fortune 500 CEO. So the point is that a lot of times wasted, and I think what really appealed about Aaron's 4-hour work week is he's taken some principles and developed them for us as real estate investors. So Michael, why don't you come up, and he's got an event coming up, so he's going to talk to you about it. I'm going to get a drink of water. You guys can shake your legs if you want, and then sit down and we'll get started again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Beau. Great job, Aaron, also. Great. As Beau mentioned, first of all, just as a sign of hands, how many of you are in the buy-sell business that do rehabs? Locally in the Bay Area or elsewhere? Okay, good, a fair amount of you. There's really an art to doing them right and to doing them on time and to doing and making certain design choices and so forth. Also screening and hiring the right contractors. And so we've done a number of them here in primarily 4 counties here in the Bay Area over the years. And so my project manager actually teaches a wonderful class, and I'll leave you with this flyer. It's called Going Rogue with Rehab. And it's a 2-day event, and it's really a very hands-on, meaty class that will take you from how to evaluate deals, come up with a scope of work or project scope of work for the deals, the type of materials, where to source them, how to hire the right people, and to also, more importantly, shepherd that project through so it's done in a timely fashion. The class is not all positive. There's a lot of horror stories, as you've heard from a few people here tonight also, that come about. So I think part of the invaluable aspect of this class is not that you're just going to hear the good, but you're going to hear the ugly as well. And we'd love to have you consider joining us. It's a very meaty class. It's in April, so there's a little bit of time to put it on your Google Calendar. And it's going to be on Saturday and Sunday, April 8th or 9th. I don't care if you've never done a deal before, or rehab a house, or you're aspiring to do a house, or you've been in this business in the trenches for many years. There's something you'll get out of this class. Do not trust everything you see on HGTV. Believe me, it's not all real. They gloss over a lot of things. Anyway, I have some flyers. We'd love to have you come out, and thank you, Beau, for putting on the event. Thank you. Yeah, let me hand it out.
Okay, guys. All right, so I'm going to you get your water. You ready to go? I don't think... You want to stand for this one, or?
I can stand.
Whatever you want. So anyways, this is good for you guys, whoever wants to be more efficient with your time. And what gets me on this is listen to what time he wakes up, but his start time and his end time for his day.
All right, so I got to do a presentation at a nonprofit that Beau and I like to go attend and support called One Life Fully Lived. And at that presentation, what my presentation was applying the 4-hour work week. So Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Work Week, it talks how to do that. And a lot of people that I've met that have read that say, well, it's not really possible, or doesn't work for me, or there aren't really practical applications in my business. And so when my business was getting reset, and I went from a whole bunch of employees to all of a sudden we lost it all from that, and then started to have some opportunities. This time I had to figure out how to rebuild my business, but I didn't have the cash flow to hire a bunch of people again. And so we started doing everything with these principles. And in general, what the principles are based on is, in college or in high school, you have that time where you had a test or a paper or something that you were supposed to do, and you just kept putting it off, and you kept putting it off, and you kept putting it off. And then finally you go, oh my gosh, it's due in an hour. I can't put it off any longer. I'm gonna shut my door and I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna slam it together and I'm just gonna go turn it in. and I'm going to have this ultimate focus and knock stuff out. And that really resonated with me because I knew that happened in my life. And so the idea is trying to run our business that way. And it's a bunch of different factors, you know, the different principles and laws that are out there. So you get 80% of your income from 20% of your effort. Right? And so if you think about that for a second, you are, I'm working my 40-hour week to make this, but I'm making 80% of my income from 20% of my effort. So I could make 80% of my income working 8 hours a week instead. And so that's the first big concept to try to focus on where you make your money. We make 80% of our income from 20% of our clients. Right? So our 20% of our best clients are the ones that are going to provide the most value in our life. And it also goes the reverse way. So 80% of our headache is going to happen from 20% of our clients. Right? So 80% of our bad day is going to happen, or the time that gets wasted is from those 20%. So some of those first concepts, the goal is that you start to focus on just the good stuff. You're going to focus your life on just that 80% of your income, just the 20% that gives you. You're going to fire your bad clients. You know, people that go, you know what, we're not gonna have that tenant anymore, we're not gonna have that person anymore, we're not gonna do it. And it's tough because you go, no, but they do make money, or they do buy our product or whichever, but they are such a headache. And the idea is, no, I would rather make less and not have that headache, so I can work 8 hours instead of 40. And then you start to get to make these other adjustments too with your time. And so a lot of what we do is based on that. So first, it's about ultimate focus. The other thing that happens during our workday, especially now with computers and text messages, so if you're sending an email or working on a project or you're trying to underwrite a deal and somebody sends you a text message, and that text message can be, hey, do you want to go to lunch in 3 days? It can be anything. But we look at our phone and we get that text message, and so it said you're going to lose about 15 to 20 minutes of productivity just from looking at that text message and putting your phone back down. Because you were ultimate focus and your brain was doing something, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we'll meet for lunch on Thursday, and so you lose that. And I think a lot of people have that happen, then you're like, what was I working on? Where am I at? And it takes 15 or 20 minutes just to get that back. You know, multitasking is like the big lie, right? So you say, no, I'm really good at multitasking. I used to work with my TV on, and with this over here and this over here, and you can take calls and everything else. But multitasking is that big lie because we're never doing anything good anymore. We're only doing stuff halfway. And the other stuff that we noticed, especially in like business work environments where a lot of employees go in, people make work for themselves, without even knowing it. Like we do stuff that we don't need to do. We're inefficient. There's stops. There's coffee breaks. There's all sorts of things. So you start to look and go, all right. So you look at your to-do list and you try to figure out what's out there, and you realize that you probably only need to do 20% of that list. You've got other things that you want to do and a lot of big reasons. And so what we started doing was we started getting really specific with what we were going to work on. And we were only going to work on the stuff that brought us the most money. We were going to do uber focus when we were focusing. And we were going to try to limit distractions. And that's tough to limit distractions because people send you emails all day and text messages all day and things like that. So now whenever you email me, it's going to have an auto response saying, hey, I'm on vacation. It always will. So if you send me an email tonight, it's going to say, hey, I'm on vacation. Now, a lot of that's true now. Now we're traveling a couple weeks a month with my wife and our 4 kids. We get to travel to our projects and all sorts of things. She's homeschooling our kids now. So we are doing a ton of traveling, but there's always going to be an auto response. Hey, I'm not looking at projects. I'm not doing this. I'm away from email today. I'm going to respond to emails tomorrow morning. If it's an absolute emergency, you can call my cell. But here are 4 people in my company that can actually help you. And it says for accounting, you're going to call this person. For this, you're going to call this. And for property management issues. And so they see that, they go, oh, Aaron's on vacation. I'm not going to bug him when he's on vacation. If it's an emergency, I will, but I think that person can handle it. And so that's my email says all day long. And so now a lot of the phone calls, a lot of the emails that used to bug me get forwarded to somebody else. They call and they get it sorted out a different way. I don't get emails on my phone anymore because it was way too easy to, even when I'm in the car and I pull up to a stoplight, try to refresh my email. And if I'm doing that, I'm not even going to be working more efficient anyway. So rather than like try to type back an email and do it, which I used to be really proud of that. I was the ultimate multitasker and I could do a whole bunch of stuff at the same time. Now my business plan is I wake up between 3 and 4 in the morning, when everybody's asleep and nobody's going to respond to me, and so no one's going to call me back, no one's going to text me, no one's going to do anything, and I can, in about an hour to 2 hours, I can sit and I can run through every email that I had the day before. I can do a response, I can do the attachment, I can do the analysis, I can look at our deals, I can look at what's going on. I've got the heavy duty scanner printer right behind me. I can print out our contracts, I can sign them, so I can run through a couple hundred emails. So the other day it was like that, was like I was somewhere with my wife and kids, looked back and was like, I got 160 emails today while we're calling. But with that hour and a half of ultimate focus of no phone, no TV on, no anything, I can fly through all of that, I send it all back, and then come 7, 8 o'clock, I can now shut it off, turn on the auto response, and I'm going to be done. Because a few things in that concept, in 2 hours of uber focus, I think I'm getting an 8-hour work day done, right? Compared to my 8-hour day I used to get when I was at an office, I'm going to get the same amount of work done in that 2 hours. Add in the fact that nobody else is awake at the time, you're going to be able to get even more done and amplified because nobody else is responding and going through with the complications that create it. So that's kind of my biggest life hack right now is doing it that way, and then trying to just organize the whole business around it. When you start to look at to-do lists, the other thing too is, so the night before you come up with your list of what you want to do the next day, and here's your 30 things that you want to do the next day. One of the big tricks with having that first hour or two be awesome is you label it, list an order of the low-hanging fruit. If you've got a to-do list of like 40 things to do, there's really going to be 20 things on there that'll actually only take you 2 or 3 minutes once you do it. Part of the reason we don't do it is we don't want to do it, and we keep putting it off, and it's that annoying thing, or it's just there, or it's not important. I mean, what used to happen to me in an office is I would show up with like one project that I wanted to do. Like today, I'm going to finish underwriting that land acquisition, and it was, I get to the office, and then we would get into response mode instead. So instead of doing what we want to do, we were being reactive. So all of a sudden, then you have to put out fires. So people are emailing, we're responding, people are emailing, they have problems, so we're working on our days reactive instead of proactive. At the end of the day, I'm leaving. The only thing that I didn't work on that day was the thing that I showed up to do. It was my land acquisition or whatever it was. And that could happen 4 or 5 days in a row when your day's reactive. So we try to, so that way I don't look at emails during times when people are sending them, so that way I don't have to react to them. And then when I get started, I can kind of list them in order of priority, and usually before I open the email, I'm going to go through my 10 or 20 things that I needed done. That's my proactive stuff, and I'll be reactive after that for everybody else. The toughest part is then actually shutting down at 8 o'clock, because we have this thing in our brain that tells us we're supposed to work all day. And especially even the advice I gave you, like buy the house that you can put in the most, that you can put in the most effort on, you put in the most sweat equity. But so if you have 2 jobs, one of the ideas is you live the 4-hour work week with your day job. And then on your new ventures, your new stuff, that's what you spend your extra time doing. Or you find a whole bunch of hobbies to do. So you said, if I get rich someday, I'm going to go golfing every day, or if I do this, I'm going to do this. So now you just do that anyway. So now you go, hey, what are you doing when I retire? I just want to be able to golf every day. Well, I think a lot of the stuff that you want to do, hey, I want to get $1 million so I can do this, or I want to get $2 million so I can do that. You probably do most of it now if you apply this, and then that's actually key, because then it'll keep you from going back into the lie that you have to work and you have to grind 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So it's kind of like my version of horizontal income. So they tell you if you own a rental, it makes you money while you sleep. My vertical income, we try to work very, very, very few hours during the week for that, and so it feels similar to rental income. So that's anything that I missed that you remember as one of the fun points of it?
A bunch of stuff, but you didn't have the PowerPoint. So, but you guys get the point. It's pretty. You got to change your thinking. But before we go into Q&A, we're gonna have Mario come up here and do some breathing exercises.
Yeah.
Who wants Mario to come up here?
Come on, Mario.
Mario is very talented. Have you ever done breathing exercises with Mario? I'm going to scoot over here. Here. Mario, you're going to lead this. No, this is better than cocaine. I wouldn't know that, though.
You have no experience in that part, no? Where are you going? Get up here.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Wait, okay, so what Beau was talking about, the breathing exercises, we're going to just oxygenate ourselves. The average person, all of us, we don't breathe deeply enough. We go through life with just very shallow breathing, and therefore we don't have enough oxygen in our blood. And so
hold it there, Kyle.
Sorry, I don't have a big. I'm not a lot of like this guy.
Use your diaphragm.
So we're going to go through a really simple breathing exercise, super easy to do, and what we're going to do is really just oxygenate our blood. There's tons and tons of science behind it. This kind of stuff intrigues me. you know, when I'm really tired, I can just drink, or instead of drinking a cup of coffee, I can just do some deep breathing, and within like a minute, you feel like you're on fire. So we're going to do 10 deep breaths. It's really, really simple. I do a number of different styles, but I'm going to give you guys a really simple one to do, and it's just, we'll just do 10 in and 10 out, and when you blow out, it's more of a relaxing blowout, so it's just as deep as you can possibly breathe in, and of course breathe into your stomach, not your chest.
Ready? Can you do it standing or sit?
Whatever you want.
Breathe in as deep as we can and then let it outside.
You've done a few of them before. All right, I'll count them off for you guys. Ready? All right,
That
so,
sucks. Just kidding. Just kidding.
You don't feel a little amp? I feel it in my head a little bit. You feel the reason
sparkly.
The reason I didn't do the big one with you guys is really like the best way to do it is 30. Really the best way to do it is sit in a chair, close your eyes, relax, do as deep as you can, relax as much as you can. After 30 breaths, I swear to
Mario, you
God.
don't inhale through your nose, but through your mouth?
You can do either or. There's a lot of different, the thing with your mouth though, nose we should be doing throughout the day because it actually moisturizes your breath. It's good, it's better for your body to absorb. Doing this though, if you want to get the best breath, really, especially right now in the wintertime, I think a lot of people got stuffy noses. It's better to do it just for that. During the day, normal breathing, you should be doing nose breathing though. So hope that helped, and thanks for putting me on the spot. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I was actually at lunch with Eric and Mario. What's the guy's name? Wim Hof. Wim Hof. This guy is like sets all these records. He has, what is it? 27 Guinness Book of World Records, and it's all because he's a breathing expert. I don't know. Eric can go into it next meetup. We'll have you talk about it. It's pretty impressive though. So I'm getting into the breathing thing. I'm breathing. All right, we're gonna do a Q&A with Aaron. How are we looking at time, Cynthia?
We're good at 7:30, so we can do a Q&A and then announcements and then networking.
Okay. All right. Anybody? Josh?
Yeah, so if you're on vacation, and so many deals that come to me it's a deal that you got to decide in an hour or, within the day. Is all your deal makers, connections, brokers, are they all educated to know that what vacation means and just call you on yourself and who you pick up for a certain obvious deal maker?
Yeah, I feel a little amped from the breathing. So,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna sit down. I feel a little tingly. Well, I think as you set it up, you have to set up your own system that way. Because my business isn't like that right now. Because so much of ours, 90% of our buying happens on 3 days during the month. Because of the way that we get it. But I think that you can have a way that the ultimate is you figure out how to come up with that system to go, if it does have to happen right then, like what are those factors? Is there somebody on your team that can narrow it down or at least hand it to you on a silver platter to where the decision's like, instead of it being something else, it's a text message, of, hey, purchases this, sales, I ran whatever your matrix is in your design. Have your team do it, and then they hand it to you on a silver platter and go, where all you need to say is yes or no.
Right.
And so it takes some setup to get the team members on board in that, but I think every business out there can do it. Go ahead, Mario.
So you were talking about Florida, and you said, I think you bought some stuff in Florida, you're not buying in Florida anymore. I'm just curious from personal perspective, I was looking at Florida, why you're not looking at Florida, why you're kind of Arizona, Texas, because I kind of heard those markets too were drying up a little bit, just your perspective.
But even though our goals are 1,000 houses right now, every month we're still limited to the amount of capital we're able to deploy, more based on funding than based on access. So a lot of it is trying to weigh one over another. So our net rental returns, what we found that we can get in those other states are newer properties, properties that are 5 to 10 years old. The other side of that too is when we go for our long-term financing, when we get our 15-year fixed rate, the older houses don't get as high of LTV as the newer houses. So what we found on kind of our first big refi was those houses out in Florida, although they may be good returns, most of the ones that we found were older. So they're 15, 20, 30-year-old houses. So even though they could be a great investment and a great return for our model, they're not going to be as good as our places where we get the same return with newer houses. Go ahead.
Yeah, just curious, what's more important to you, cash flow appreciation or the amortization of the debt as far as the component goes?
Our big goal is to really take all of our money out of the deal. So
leverage.
So leverage, right? So if I buy a house at 70%, let's say 60% of the value, and I put money into it. So I got $70,000 invested in a house, and now it appraises for $100,000, and I pull out an $80,000 15-year fixed loan on it, right? So that means I paid off my $70,000 investment. I took $10,000 tax-free, because if you take out a loan for something more than you have invested in it, you owe it, so you don't have to pay taxes on that $10,000 gain. And then your return is that infinite return. So our biggest goal is to try to create infinite returns. So we've done that with some apartment complexes and things like that. Whereas then your net return, let's say because it's highly leveraged, it's making $5,000, $10,000 a month. If you really have none of your money invested in it, it doesn't really matter. If you make $200 a month on something you don't have any of your own capital invested in, then it's a win.
So appreciation is not that important.
Appreciation is not that important. Buying it well below market value is the most important, because we feel like we're going to create that value when we do that fix-up portion. Appreciation would be nice, right? But being able to see what happens with cycles. Part of why we try to lock into our 15-year fixed model now is that's going to be 1 or 2 cycles probably. And so even if we see a bunch of changes soon, as long as we've got our cash flow, we think we've got a good plan to handle if there's a major market crash or not. I mean, we did the best during major crashes before, but I don't know. But yeah, appreciation, I've never been able to bet it right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering on the deal that you bought in Texas, the one that was boarded up for the past 12 years, knowing that we are in the next 2 years of downward trend in the market, what is your exit strategy for that?
Well, so our exit strategy on most of our stuff is we're not planning to sell anything. And so, but yeah, so if you get halfway, you get $1 million in and something happens, we haven't invested a lot right now. We're spending $30,000, $40,000 a month on general stuff that we need done out there before we get that big, government financing package done. Once that's done, I mean, we're funded through the rest of our project for that part of it. So most of the stuff we don't have exit strategies with. We have a new home subdivision in Sacramento that we're building, and our plan for this one is to just keep them all as single-family rentals instead of sell them. Obviously, the exit strategy for that is we could sell them if they're in the right position. But mostly, our goal right now is to get as many as we can into that 15-year fixed type money, because then it can outweigh, then at least theoretically, the cash flow can outweigh that, so we won't have to exit on anything.
Sacramento is the nation top rental destination is on top of the past 2 years, as you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's good there to live, but it's just that. What do you predict? From your expertise, how much time do we have for the downward cycle to come in?
Oh man, there's so many times right now when we try to say, is it 2007 or is it 2009 or is it 2005 right now? So is it, the 2005 was the real peak. 2007 was the peak on paper because nobody knew it yet, and 2009 it was like a falling knife, right? And a lot of the stuff that you see right now in the news is a lot of the stuff we saw back in 2005. You see, there's a lot of, the big caveat though is that there aren't really a lot of loans that I think that are going to reset anytime soon, because people that got loans in the last 5 years had to work really hard to get them. And affordability levels aren't in bad shape right now, even though we're at like peak values.
With the new, with the interest rate hikes, a lot of people won't be able to qualify, a lot of institutions that will be able to qualify. And therefore, you're going to see a decline in the deal, because people are not able to buy the stuff.
Right. When you look back to the crash last time, when you're talking 2005, 2007, that moment, we still remember those months when we had those 3 interest hikes in a row in 2005 that started that spiral. And so you've got all the other things in the news right now that were similar to that time. But who really knows, right? I don't want to bet on things anymore, and so that's why we're trying to not do appreciation, because we mostly bet it wrong last time. The company that I was working with had lots of new homes all over California, all over Central Valley when the crash happened. So,
buy for cash flow.
So you said back in 09 to about 11 or 12, you had a really good run, and then your company went under. What are the top 3 things that you would do over again now, looking back, to change that so you guys will keep thriving moving forward?
Yeah. So Blackstone, Invitation Homes, all those big institutional investors, they came to auction. Started buying houses, right? And me and a lot of my buddies, we met with them when it was happening. I'm really good friends with all the guys that ended up running Invitation Homes and American Homes for Rent, a lot of those areas around here. When we first talked to them before they came in, trying to get an idea of just what the buying power of those institutions was going to change the world out here, but I could have never forecasted how that worked. I mean, prices in Sacramento jumped up 40 to 45% within a year because every single good asset on the market, those companies started buying. So what I would have done different is I would have bought a bunch of stuff in 2012. I mean, we made millions of dollars flipping in 2012 when we really just should have held them all, right? That should have been the time where we said, hey, we can buy houses at good prices. Why make $20,000 on it right now when we can just get it forever? Because that was because then what really ended up breaking us, we had those things that happened, and then we also had a big company. We had a lot of employees, we had a lot of company cars. To go to auction, you need to bring millions of dollars of cashier's checks every day to auction. So we had really high overhead, and when you're going to auction every day and you're not able to buy houses because the big guys are buying all the houses, we're spending $100,000 a month on overhead without buying a house. And that's just money right out of pocket. And that can only happen for so long. Go ahead.
Real quick, to add on to the breathing expert guy, cancer cannot survive in an oxygenated environment, just so you know. But my main question is, one, what's your economic occupancy and what's your turn rate?
So economic occupancy and turn rate, so what factor do we use for how long we keep them occupied? So 90% factor?
No, economic occupancy, what are you collecting versus the units?
Yeah, so a newer home in Texas, we're going to buy it for $100,000 and it's going to rent for $1,400 a month. Property taxes are a little higher out there. So our minimum net return we want is 8%, but we're going to make 10. On our apartment complexes that are the much older product, so I bought an apartment complex for $300,000. I've since been able to refi out of it, but that brings in the gross rents every month are $18,000 a month, but the net return ends up being like $9,000 a month. It's still a 30% net annual return on purchase price. So the older stuff, I'm shooting for really, really high net returns. The new stuff, if we get 8, we're really happy. Did I answer your question? No. Kind of? Sorry. You talk to me afterward. It's like I learned the question.
I think we're good here. Okay. Everybody give this guy a big round of applause. I'm sure he'll stick around for a couple minutes if you guys want to talk to him. And I'm sure we'll have him back and maybe we'll do a case study in the future and you can walk us through some of your deals and maybe we'll share some more videos that he has. He has pretty cool videos of some projects he's doing. And then we're going to go into networking. I guess a couple of quick announcements is if you're a Thrive member, we're going to do a mastermind once a month. It's not going to be at Buttercup. Well, this time it's going to be at Buttercup, but from now on it'll be upstairs here. And that'll be just on all out of state. And we're just going to talk about different markets. It's kind of like a collective group where people are doing research and finding property managers and real estate connections and working together to find some investment opportunities in other states. Yes?
So why you living that out of state, why not California?
Well, it could be California. This group's just out of state, just because that's what I've been doing lately, and I'm interested in it.
Where are you meeting?
If I'm doing it, I'm doing something I want to do. But yeah, you could take the same principles here, but
Well, we can start another mastermind for local areas.
yeah, Cynthia's gonna run that one right there. Cynthia,
But
okay.
we are gonna send a survey out to everybody, just so please like fill it out, because we do wanna know what you're interested in learning about. Sometimes people are interested in out of state, sometimes you care less, and you're like, I only wanna flip. So that way we kind of get an idea, so that we can kind of gear our presentations and different masterminds to the various interests.
The reason I was saying is that, look, I own like 500 doors in the area, Stockton and Sacramento, and I buy them undervalued like 40 grand a door.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff in California that.
Well, yeah, no, there's not that. There's always. I know people that are buying deals all day long here. Yeah. Just my model in particular is I wanted to go for cash flow. Yeah.
I think it's so fun. We could learn.
But no, I mean, there's deals everywhere. There's deals everywhere. But like more of the institutional grade guys, like they're going just for the volume. And so, you know, if they want to reach their goals and their cash flow returns. But yeah, I mean, I know guys that are buying all over, you know, and buying and holding, you know, multiple units here. And they're
just bought one like last month.
Yeah.
100 unit, 140 a door, Sacramento.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. And there's deals everywhere. So we can definitely, if you want to start that, we'll be happy to. No, I mean, I'm open to all of it. I mean,
yeah, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
I can start that. Yeah. I don't want to go.
So anyways, so the 18th at Buttercup, out of state. If you guys want to get started, it'd be a good. I'm thinking Kent Mack. You guys remembered him from last time. He's doing some purchasing, and then
Boot camp.
And then REI Bar Camp will be in April. If you guys have ever been to REI Bar Camp, those are fun. It's kind of like a, they do it in the tech industry. Just a collaborative event. We get a bunch of people that host different sessions, and it's a conversation, not so much a presentation. And then next month we have Brittany Salazar. She's another lady, similar to Erin, that was doing a lot of house flipping. And what I'm impressed about her, she's really good with systems. Because actually I had 3 coaching calls with her, and that's what I lack is structure and systems, and she's really good. So anyway, network, get to know everybody, and then we'll send out emails and keep you posted. And if you guys, when we get you a survey, I think we actually didn't we build a survey?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we already have a survey.
Yeah, it's there. But when you get your welcome email after you subscribe,
Yeah, it already goes out.
It says go here and go on survey.
We're on top of it. But anyways, we'll resend out a survey. We're open. Anything you guys want to learn, we'll bring. You know, this is for everybody. So whatever you want to learn, you have a speaker you want to bring in, we'll bring them in. Yeah.
Thank you.
So enjoy.